Welcome to Book Cuddle. I'm your host, Karen Reader with Readgab. Today, our guest is Claire Swinarski, and she wrote this beautiful middle grade historical fiction that I just loved, and it kept me up at night afterwards, just thinking about it and reflecting on it. So I'm really excited to have you on with us today, Claire. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for those kind words. I'm super excited to be here.
So we're going to get talking about each and every spark in a minute, but first, I'd love, Claire, for you to take a second and introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Claire Swinarski. If my last name sounds super Polish, it's because it is. I'm married to a Pole. I live in very cold and snowy Wisconsin in a super, super small town, kind of like Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls. That's how I describe it to people. And about me, when I'm not reading or writing, I'm a mom. Well, I'm always a mom, even when I'm reading or writing, but I
True.
have three little kids.
That does not end.
Um, I am a baker. I like to tell people I was into sourdough before 2020. I was
Before.
ahead of the claim to fame, but not that I judge anyone who got into it around then too. I support anyone's sourdough timeline.
Yes, I hear it's like a
And
cult. Everybody wants to bring, that's what my friend tells me. She's like, it's the sourdough
it
cult, and I
is.
want you in it.
It is. Yeah, we love to talk about it. We love to like discuss our techniques and tactics and see what people do differently. And then I also love baking because you can make it as gifts for people. You don't know what to get someone, you just make them a loaf of bread. Anytime someone gets homemade baked goods, they're
Oh,
always like
yes.
so happy. So it's a great hobby.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. All right, we're going to do our author icebreaker. I'm basing it on Ms. Penny Pickle's Puzzle Quest by Chris Grabenstein. And so it was a really fun one where the kids go across, and I want to say Route 66. They go across the country and they have to stop at different places. And it's kind of like the Amazing Race that they do these different challenges while they're there, like drinking these awful tasting sodas and different things that they have to do as a team. So, who would your traveling companion be? And can you tell us maybe a couple activities that you would do on a road trip?
Yes, so my favorite traveling companion is my sister. She's like one of my best friends. We've done many, many long road trips together. And I think any road trip we take would probably be some sort of like food pilgrimage, like finding all of the best French fries. We both love French fries. Or I was talking to you before we started recording about my love for dirty sodas. I think
Yeah.
like going to all different soda shops would be fun. Some kind of food adventure with her would be good. And I like traveling with her because she hates how I drive. And so I just get to be passenger princess while she chauffeurs us everywhere.
Nice. Nice. I love it. Oh, I love getting the food when I travel everywhere.
The best. It's the best
Um,
part.
Sometimes my husband has to travel a lot for work, and sometimes I go with him. And when I don't, like when he got back from France, and people would be like, "Oh, did you eat all the food?" And he's like, "I ate frozen burritos and at McDonald's, whatever." It's only when Karen travels with me that we eat all the foods, and I'm like, "Yeah." And I do. I make sure and I try to find what's a authentic place for the area that maybe not all the tourists go to, and what's the thing here, and I try blood
You're a
pudding.
good
No.
influence.
Yes, right. And yeah, even things that I'm like, when you explain blood pudding, I'm like, that sounds awful. But where's England? You had to try blood pudding. And yeah, I try the things, sometimes only a bite, but I want to make sure that wherever makes it for me is known as a good restaurant. Because if I'm going to try it,
Yeah,
it needs to be well prepared.
absolutely. Especially with blood pudding.
Yes, right. And or haggis or oh my goodness. I'm like, okay. All right. I was just going to keep going off and off. We'll stop there because I think you and I could just have a let's talk about food today on Book Cuddle.
Totally, totally.
All right. Tell us about each and every spark. What is it about? Give us the synopsis.
So each and every spark is a historical fiction and contemporary dual point of view novel. So in 2026, we have Penny, whose mom has forced her to move across the world from Wisconsin to Paris. She is not happy about this, but her mom is an art historian. And when she gets called in to check out a painting that some construction workers found, Penny becomes very intrigued with what this painting is and how it wound up where it did. And she decides to start investigating basically why on earth a beautiful painting would be hidden in a wall.
Right.
So that's 2026. And then in 1943, we have Marie. It's funny. One of my favorite authors is Anthony Doerr, and he
Uh-huh.
has a book where the main character is named Marie in France. And every time he gives an interview, he gives the full Marie, and I will not be doing that. So Marie in
Okay.
France. Um, she lives with her sister Heloise or Eloise during the Nazi occupation of Paris, and she finds out that her sister has been involved in French resistance activity, and she would like to start helping as well. And so that's kind of the first little part of the book, and then where it goes is anyone's guess.
Yes. Oh, and there was well, I when I read it, for some reason I was thinking they were going to like interact somehow, that there was going to be some fantastical something going on. But they have this common art thing instead. And so they have this other way that they're
That's
connecting.
just funny you say that because my daughter is reading it right now. This is my first book of mine she's ever read because she's 7. This is the first one I'm letting her read. And she gives me her predictions and she's like, I think they're magically gonna travel in time. And
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no magic time travel in the book. I will give you that spoiler.
I thought wormhole kind of thing, that they were
Oh,
somehow
okay.
communicate with like some letters. I've read a couple books like that this last year, and that there were like some letter kind of things that they
Mm,
communicated with that way. So,
yeah.
but I loved it. I love
Thank
the
you.
art theme to it. And all my questions are just on the top of my head, that I just am like, I have all the things to say to you, Claire. So I'm gonna calm
Well,
myself
bring it
down
on.
now. Calm down, Karen. We have time to get through this. Let's talk about art first, since we were just talking about how that's their connection. Why did you want art to be a thing in the book?
I have always found the way that people create art during times of conflict and distress very interesting.
Hmm.
Like you would think in these times when communities are suffering so deeply, art would just not really be a priority. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It'd be like
Yes.
too high up there when people are trying to get shelter and food, but it's just not the case. I mean, when you look at different time periods of immense suffering, often beautiful art is created then, or even in our world with all the different things going on, to see like the poetry in books and movies that are being made in the midst of pain is just super interesting to me. And when I kind of thought about why that was, it made perfect sense to me that when you are confronted with darkness, with despair, with destruction, like Marie very much is, and Penny is in her own way, right? She's
Yes.
she's lonely, she's homesick, she's unhappy where she is. When you're surrounded by that, you want to turn to something true. You want to turn to something beautiful. And often for people, that is beautiful art, that is beautiful paintings. And I think that art, be it paintings, be it books, be it music, any kind of art, can really just remind us of the good and true things about the world and remind us that there's good worth fighting for. I'm a big Tolkien girl. You can probably tell if you read the book. I have a Tolkien that's an illustration of Tolkien and C.S. Lewis
Nice.
behind me on my wall. And that's one of his big themes, right? That there's good in the world worth fighting for. And I think that that's really what art kind of remind us. And I know for my own self, I specifically remember in 2020 when, it's COVID, we're all stuck in our house, horrible protests. I mean, it was just a nightmare time if people haven't completely blocked it out. And I had a baby, so it was like real tough in my house. Um, I just remember seeing the poems that people were writing and the art that people were making and just feeling so uplifted and inspired by that. And so to me, I just think art is one of the most foundational things that we can create as human beings. It's kind of an intense answer, but that's
I
truly how I
love it. I
feel.
love it so much. It really was so inspiring to me because, like everything going on right now, it's
Mhm.
so overwhelming. Like my husband gets back from walking the dog and I'm like, "Hey, how was that?" And he's like, "I was just fuming the whole time." And,
Mhm.
it's eating at a lot of people, and it's
Mhm.
so hard, and it drags us down. And
Yeah.
and I think it's so important and so good, those who go and they speak out, and I think that's good. But not all of us feel comfortable doing that, for one, or maybe aren't ready. And so
Mhm.
the fact that art can inspire and help people get there, or that everybody can have their place because poor Penny feels so guilty because she's got a friend
Mhm.
back home that's just, and I can't remember her friend's agenda if it was climate change or was it the people in
Rosalie has a
movies?
lot of
She
agendas.
has a lot of
Rosalie's
agendas.
full of
It's
agendas.
but the point is she's got to get out there and speak and change
Yes.
the world. And
Yes.
and she makes Penny feel guilty for not being a part of it
Right.
all. And so Penny's really grappling with that a lot throughout the book about, well, all I have is this art and what good is it anyways? And I loved that that was such a theme in the book, and that for one, she went through a struggle with it, and that she just stopped doing art because what's the point? And then when she would go and stand and appreciate it in a museum, sometimes she would even feel guilty then, or sometimes she would just embrace it though. And I think
Mhm.
that's it gave me such hope and inspiration, and it felt very personal to me. And I hope this book will do that for a lot of people. Just make people
Well,
pause to think.
thank you. Yeah, I think it's important to just remember in these times that we all have different roles and we all have different gifts. And some people are protesters, and some people are letter writers, and some people are poets, and some people are raising the next generation of activists. And like everyone has their own role to play. And if we shame people or try to make them feel bad for not having our role, we're probably missing out on a great gift that they could give. And you never know what's going on in someone's life that's also making them act the way they do. I mean, she's going through a lot with this move with her brothers, she has having some difficulty with her parents. I mean, that's a lot for a 13-year-old to carry. And I really don't envy 13-year-olds today either, because as tempting as it is to be like, we live in the worst time of all the worst times, like this book also takes place in 1943. This is not the worst time of all the worst times. And the difference is that in this day and age, kids just get it all in their face all day from their phones. And
Right,
so, throughout history, there have been these horrible genocides and fascism and slavery. I mean, all of these things have existed for thousands of years, but only now are kids just scrolling for hours and just being fed it and fed it and fed it.
right,
And so that I think is why it feels so impossibly heavy for kids right now.
right. It what you said just made me remember. Did you ever watch that show Lost that was so
I
random?
did not.
The
I know I'm a
airplane that
loser because
crashed.
people love it. Yeah, no,
I,
I've never
it
seen
got
it.
so weird. It did. It got so weird, but I especially loved it in the beginning. But anyways, it made me think of this one part that they're doing this form of torture, and I think kind of that they're also trying to they're definitely trying to damage him and torture him, and I think
Mhm.
sway him to the side, but they have his eyes like forced open, and they're very quickly playing just awful scenes throughout history, just some of the most awful things to have to see. And
And we just choose to do it on our
right?
phones.
Scroll that
Yes,
doom scrolling. I'm like, this
absolutely.
is what people have used for torture, and we're doing it to ourselves. And like it
Yeah.
changes the brain to have this need to constantly, yeah, that's crazy. Like I didn't even think about it like that until I just remembered Lost. I was like, yeah, that is bad to do this to ourselves.
Yeah.
And like that Penny's able to sit and just stare at a piece of art. That's great for the brain. Like very few people can do that because, like she points out too, people just walk right through. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it
Mhm.
is. Okay, and yeah, like to stop and appreciate something, that's such a gift that she has. And who knows, but that the art that is created might inspire somebody to be standing up and speaking out. So maybe you're not
Absolutely.
standing up and speaking out, but it might inspire somebody else to get there and do that.
Absolutely.
So, is this your first historical fiction?
This is my first
Okay, I
historical.
thought so.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I was looking over some of the other books, and because you write adults and kids, so I didn't know if
I
I.
do. Yep.
So, what caused you to write historical fiction then?
I have wanted to do historical for a long time, but I was very scared. And my fear was correct because it was very hard. But
Right.
I love history. I've always been a bit of a history nerd. My mom was a teacher. And so a lot of our vacations were to like dead presidents' houses and museums. And like other people were at Disney World and we were like going
At
to
Mount
see
Vernon.
Susan B. Anthony's grave. Yeah. Like we were just in all of these historical spots, but I love history. I thought about studying it in college. I've always loved documentaries and biographies, and I just really do enjoy it. And World War II, I do enjoy World War II, and I think World War II is very accessible. There's so much written about it. There's so much research already done. People really already have this like base of knowledge, even a lot of kids.
Right. Well,
And
and it's
so,
such a clear evil to write about for historical fiction.
yeah, yeah, and
They're the bad guy.
there's so many different countries involved that there's so many different stories you can tell,
Yes.
right? You could just the whole obviously it's a world war, right? So there's all these different corners you could cover, different facets. And I think that World War II would be a great way to dip my toe into historical fiction. And so when I first pitched it to my editor, she was a little like, my longtime editor, Alyssa Mealy over at HarperCollins. I've done all my children's books with her, and she is not the biggest historical fiction girl, but
Okay.
I really tried to sell her with there's going to be this contemporary point of view, and it's going to really be addressing, how to make good art in hard times and the way that that can really carry over generations. So that's kind of why I dove into World War II. So it was really really hard because there's just so many things that I had to learn and keep in my mind. But at the same time, World War II is such a researched, covered period.
So the
Like even
material's available. You can,
yeah.
yes,
I
like, because
mean,
that's
I
hard
mean,
when, yeah,
there's
you don't
so
have
many
your,
books written about the Nazi occupation of Paris. Like I read probably 15 and I probably could have read 50. I mean, there's
right.
so many. And so that was great that it wasn't some super niche
Yes.
historical topic.
Yes. I know that that can be hard when you need the
Yeah.
documents to, my
Yeah.
husband is a American history historian at
Okay.
PhD, and that's what he does. And
Very
so,
cool.
yes, I'm very familiar with trying to find stuff. It's good.
Yes.
So, did you do any original source documents, or were you reading mostly books where somebody else wrote about it?
I was reading mostly books where somebody else wrote about it, but I did travel to Paris a couple of
Nice.
times
Okay.
and go to the occupation museums there. They have multiple museums there. I get them a little confused, but there's three different museums about World War II in Paris.
Nice.
And so I went to those museums and that was super helpful just to really see with your eyes things
Yes.
like ration cards and letters from resistance members and things like
Right.
that, and just to walk the streets of where you're writing, I think it's very helpful. All of my other fiction has taken place in Wisconsin, where I live,
Yeah.
and so this was the very first time that I had to travel somewhere and really get the sense and the smell and the sights of a different city. And so traveling to Paris was super helpful.
Nice. Nice. Tell me other things that impacted the book as you were there yourself.
As I was there myself, I think I noted, what did I really remember noticing? I think all of the different cultures that are in Paris was
Yeah.
really interesting. Like that's something Penny keeps noticing is that like it's French, but it's also so influenced by all these like there's a giant Nike store and you hear so many languages in Paris. Like you hear a ton of American English. There's so many Americans there. And like that was really interesting. I remember thinking um, and then also just literally the way Paris is set up, the way that the streets wind, it's not the super like straightforward grid. And so it was really
Kind of
interesting to think
confusing
about,
to
yeah,
find where you need to be.
kind of, yeah, extremely. But then when you're writing about something like the resistance, it's really interesting to think about all the different nooks and crannies people could have hidden in or dipped down or things like that. So that was another really good part of being there. It's just I think if you're writing about a different place, being able to go there is so helpful. I mean, you can look at a million pictures of Paris, but there's nothing like being there and feeling the energy of the city.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I agree 100% on that. So, in your research, you knew mostly what to expect. I mean, you generally
Mhm.
knew World War II was awful. You kind of knew something about resistance. You had a
Mhm.
bit of knowledge. But what
Mhm.
was there? Is there something? Is there something that surprised you in your research that you were like, huh, maybe it wasn't even included in the book, but something that you didn't expect to find?
I would say a lot of that was before I even started writing when I was first crafting the idea
Okay.
of the story. And it was just like a little thing in the back of your head. You know, you kind of get this little itch almost. And it's like, could that be a book? Could that be a story? And you find yourself thinking about it like in the shower while you're driving the car. And you find yourself pulling up a lot of podcasts about the topic and things like that. So I think during that process is when I really learned a lot of surprising things. I mean, to me, just the sheer amount of children involved in the resistance was the most interesting thing to me. And that's really what the book is based on. But just the fact that kids were so instrumental was fascinating to me. I mean, one fact that I included in the author's note at the back is that the youngest person who the French government recognized as an official resistant was 6 years old.
Oh,
I mean, that
wow.
is a kindergartner
Yeah.
who would
My
smuggle
daughter turns
messages under
6
his
next
shirt.
week. I just can't even picture
Yeah,
it,
like
right? I just want to
imagine her
protect her.
just being in that amount of danger is just fascinating. Or how important like kids stealing bicycles was really important because you see a kid on a bike, you're like, yeah, it's a kid on a bike.
Right.
You just wouldn't even register that's what's just happened. And so I think just the amount of children being involved in the resistance, that part alone was really interesting to me. And then to think through a lot of the nitty gritty details about what life would have been like in terms of like there just wasn't enough raw material for things like shoes. And so all these poor kids, like I was listening to so many testimonies of what it was like to be a child in
Yes.
Paris during the Nazi regime. And so many of them mentioned their shoes were too small. And they just will never forget that their feet hurt, their feet hurt, their feet
Yeah.
hurt because they were just wearing the same size shoes for 3 years. And I have 3 kids and I know how often these children need new shoes. And it is a lot. And like I can't imagine them wearing the same pair for 10 months, let alone 3 years.
Right.
And so that was just another thing that really stuck out in my mind is those tiny, painful details that people still remember like decades later.
Yes. And then like they started making them out of wood or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, and so they're
Yeah,
too
yeah, yeah,
loud.
yeah.
They're just little resistance. Yeah. Oh, do you know what I do want to ask you? Okay. What is your favorite French pastry?
You know, I am gonna go basic and say a good old eclair, just
Okay.
like my name. But I do love a really great eclair. I love all French pastry. I bake, but I don't bake pastry. That is way beyond my level.
Right.
So whenever I go to France, I gotta get it all.
Got it. Yes, from the good, good. Yeah, we were my husband my husband and I lead a study abroad. Last year was our
Mm.
first year to do it, and we
Oh,
went
cool.
6 countries for 6 weeks, discovering early America and Europe. And because if you're gone for more than 30 days, the university pays to send your whole family. So everything for my whole family was paid for. And
Amazing.
it's this amazing opportunity, but my kids at times felt a little bit like Penny that they were being forced to do something that they did not want to do, and 6 weeks is too long to be gone from friends. But there's one pastry that I had, and I don't even know what it was called, but it was at a cafe not too far from Versailles, and just right before we entered the undergrounds, I can't remember whatever they call it in France, subway. And I was like, I don't think I'm taking the kids to Versailles again this next year because like the young ones just they get
Yeah.
and we only go every other
Yeah.
year, but the young ones will end up going a lot. And so I was like, I think I'll skip Versailles, but I'm already thinking this is a year and a half out still because we only go on odd years. I'm already like, Kay Tyson, you've got to get me this pastry that I had
A
at
hundred
this
percent.
cafe that I could not find anywhere else. I need that one. I'm looking forward to this
Amazing.
already. Like, this is how important certain foods are, right?
Very.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure like there's just no comparison to an American one versus having the same pastry,
There's just not.
right?
There is just not, man.
All right. Can we talk character development and what this
Yes.
was like doing two very different people and two different timelines? Can you tell me what this creation was like?
Yeah. So I wrote all of Marie first. So I wrote Marie's entire story. I thought I was going to try to go back and forth, but when I started to do that, I found it very, very hard to get in the zone. I think me as a writer, I really need to work on one
Yeah,
point of view at a time, really dive in, have my playlist for that person going, have them in my brain. Like it's a whole vibe that you got to kind
right.
of be able to ride. And to switch was not working. So I ended up doing all of Marie, and then I could, get all my research incorporated, all my nitty gritty things, and make her story nice and tight. And then I went back and did Penny.
Nice.
But then I had to see how to smush them together. And
Right.
that was pretty hard, knowing like where, like these stories have to really be their own entity, but then they also really have to play off each other. You have to get the emotional
Yes.
dynamic correct. You have to keep the tension equal between them with these two different points of view. My middle grade book before this was also two points of view, so I had a little bit of practice
Right.
doing that, but to
Was
have a
it
completely different
again a
timeline
different
is
timeline when your last one, or is this the
yeah,
first
or
one?
actually, yeah, my last one was a little strange. Take it from the top. One girl is during one summer, and then the other girl is telling the story of the 6 summers before that. So
Oh,
she's
okay.
going back and forth, and then the one girl's right there.
So
I
you
love a
had some
complicated
experience
timeline.
doing two people and two different
Yeah.
timelines.
Poor Alyssa is always like, your timelines. I've never written a book that's just start to finish. It's always like these crazy flashbacks. It was really difficult and it just required reading it over and over and over and over and putzing and putzing and putzing to just try to get the
Yes.
chapters in the right places and to make sure that like Marie's story is really over a period of like a few months and Penny's is much tighter. And so how do you understand that when you're reading that for Penny? Well, her last chapter was only a day before, but for Marie, Marie's last chapter was like 2 months before.
A lot
And
of time
so
has passed. Yes.
it
I
was a
have
lot of ticky
never
tacky.
needed, actually, and I'll tell you about this, that I have never needed to pay such close attention to when it is and what is going on because, like, how much time has passed, like you were saying. I don't always watch those things. I'm just like, I
Hmm.
kind of flow. I don't double check. Okay, what date did it just say or whatnot? I'm like, okay, yes, we are present day because I've got another dual timeline that I'm listening to right now, the
Hmm.
90s one. And I'll be like, whoa, wait, I thought that was present day New York, but no, they're both like history.
Yeah.
Nothing's present day. And so, yeah, but this one, yeah, like what you were saying, that how much time has passed? What month are we in?
Yeah.
Because they're not both even in the same month. We're not both.
No.
So, yeah,
I
I did
tried
have
to
to
do that,
think
but it
about that.
just it did make sense for the story. If I have a brand, it's complicated timelines. My first middle grade novel, What Happens Next, is it's
Uh-huh.
told backwards.
Okay.
So it's like I like love a complicated, complex timeline, but I know it's asking a lot of readers.
Well, and it's good because readers want
Well, thank you.
something that's different, right? They don't want to feel like everything's always the same. You want some familiarity because there's nice to
Hmm.
have connections. And or
Yeah.
somebody's like, I love historical fiction. I love World War II historical fiction, but I want something different. Okay, this is neat. It's not the
Hmm.
people that were sent to the concentration camps. I'm not saying that's not important. I'm saying that
Hmm.
they're getting a different view. And
Hmm.
the contemporary ones that they're like, oh, wow, oh my gosh, there's just plaques all over about this. And so then these other characters that have such a
Hmm.
big influence, and then we get so much into the history about them, like this
Hmm.
Jean, and then we get some more history about Joan. It's Joan of Arc, right? Is who
Yes. Yep.
Jean is.
Jeanne d'Arc. Hmm.
They just they Americanized or Englishized it and called it her Joan.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure that we're Joan of Arc because that would
Yes.
be a
Yep.
coincidence to be like Jeanne of Arc.
Yes.
So it was neat that kids can just see so many different things in history. And I feel like it provides so much great conversation. This is one of the things that I love to talk about is how can you get kids talking? Whether it's a librarian or a teacher listening or a parent, what can we pull out of this to get kids talking? And a question that I often enjoy based on that is what advice would your characters give to young readers? So, can you pick a
That is a good
character?
question.
Penny, Marie, Jeanne. Could you pick one and give us some of the advice that they might say to somebody today?
I think Penny would tell people that they should not forget what makes them feel most alive, even when they are suffering. And if you can remember what makes you feel most alive and lean into it, it will help, even if it doesn't feel like it's going to. Because I think Penny knows what it's like to take a break from something that she really loves and that made her feel alive, and what that did to her spirit and what that did to her heart, when she was going through a hard time and didn't have that to lean on, and that's something really, really important. It's not dumb, and it's not silly, and it's not superfluous. And even if it's for kids, it might be something as simple as like baseball cards
Right.
or, volleyball. It doesn't have to be painting or something. We think of painting
Yes.
as very like erudite, and that's an
Yeah.
acceptable hobby. But,
That's, yeah.
kids hobbies
Choose
might be
from this
bracelet
list of
making,
acceptable choices of what can bring
Yeah.
you joy.
Yeah, and I think to really let kids explore that and find out what it is, it might be Minecraft. I hate to say it, it's not mine, but it might be
Right.
something like that, a role-playing game, or just what makes you feel alive and is going to help you really connect to yourself. Those things are just really, really important to continue to cling to and explore to, and don't let them fall by the wayside. They're just as important as school and your health and all these other things. So I think that's the advice that Penny would probably give.
Nice. I like it. I like Penny. Penny helped me a lot, especially Penny's mom, though, because like I was saying, I have
Yeah.
kids across the world. And so Penny's mom helped me feel validated.
Yeah. I love Penny's mom too. It was funny. I don't like to read my book reviews, but I'm not going to act like I'm a perfect angel who never does that. And I did see somebody talking about like it's funny that Penny would have such a hard time with her mom going back to work because like most moms work. And I wanted to tell that person like, oh, I know a lot of kids whose moms don't work, and if they do go back to work, it is really
Yes.
it's hard on the kid. I'm not saying I'm a working mom, okay? I am not sitting here being like they shouldn't go back to work. I'm saying it's a hard transition if you're not used to it. Family transitions are hard, whether it's
Yes.
a dad going back to work or a mom losing her job, like whatever it is. When your parents' situation changes and their involvement in your life now looks different than it did, whether it's more or less, like that is a hard transition for kids, and that happens all the time. So
Yeah,
I
that
love
is
Penny's mom.
interesting. That is interesting because to say that it shouldn't be hard because other people are going through it. What?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like change
And
is
this,
hard. And to
yeah.
finish, like the thing, like, because, and I'm always like, a happy mom is what makes the best mom. I always hate mom.
Yes.
You,
Yeah,
the working mom's better, the stay-at-home mom's
yeah,
better, the this, that I'm like, no, the happy mom is the best mom.
yeah. And
And
that's one of the themes of the book is you
yes,
kind of see with Penny's mom go taking this new job is this whole conversation about like we have to find a way to it's a family unit. Like what
yes,
is best for the whole family unit might hurt one person. And for a long time, it was hurting the mom, but it was what was best for the kids. Well, now it's the mom's turn to do
yes,
something that is helpful to her. And it is hurting Penny a little bit, but she'll be all right.
yes, she will be. And
Yeah.
mom is trying
Hmm.
so hard to help her find
Yep.
things that bring Penny joy.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Penny can choose to take those things and find the joy.
You
Or
can.
Penny can
Hmm.
choose to get a picket and walk around the living room and say, I will not
Yep.
be oppressed. My
Well, she tries
5-year-old
both.
keeps telling me, Mom, liberty. Do you know about liberty, Mom? That's from the mouth of my 5-year-old. And I'm like, yes,
Oh my
I know
goodness.
about consequences, daughter.
Do you know how money works?
Yes. I have the liberty to go take something off the store shelf or go speeding down the highway, but not if there's consequences, daughter. But I do. I love that Penny struggles with that she's not perfect because
Hmm. No,
readers
she's
don't like
not.
it. Readers do not want a perfect character. And I
Hmm.
feel that that's the other thing I like about this dual perspective going on is that it's just because World War II is definitely harder and we would not have wanted to live in that doesn't mean
Hmm.
people today don't have hard things, like you were saying, and ways.
Yeah.
And I think it was just such a beautiful book to cause reflection. And that's what I love about it is you don't have to be going through the same thing to feel and then be like, it really makes you reflect on what maybe is going on. Or at the end of the day, some people can just go enjoy a good story because that's always okay too.
Yeah, I think sometimes with dual POV historical fiction, it can be a little tricky to balance that because oftentimes our modern problems, not that they're not very difficult, but there is a difference between I'm homesick and oh, my entire family has been murdered. Like the
Yeah,
problems
and my
don't
life is
feel
at
like
stake.
equally
Yes.
heavy. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, suffering is suffering. It's not quantitative. We can't measure it. And we can all learn from each other. So I think Penny could really learn a lot from Marie, and Marie could really learn a lot from Penny.
Yeah. And it can, I don't know, I think it can help us as we read these things take on the challenges that we're facing with greater strength and hope. And I like that you,
That's the hope.
thank you for giving that to the readers. Can you tell us what's next for Claire? What's coming?
Oh, there's so much. What's next for Claire? Well, so Each and Every Spark comes out on February 17th, and
Yes.
then my next adult novel comes out in May. So I will be very, very busy
Oh,
this
wow.
spring. And then I actually have my next middle grade coming out January 2027. So that is
Oh, so
three
that's been
books in less
announced.
than a year.
Can you
Um,
tell us about
yeah,
it then?
it's been announced, but not like full, like I don't have a cover or anything, but it's
But
called
the
Miss.
person who bought it has like the,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
It
so
was
you
in
can
the
tell us,
Publishers
right?
Weekly and
Okay.
all that. Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep. It's
Okay.
called
Tell
Mr.
us.
Cooper. It's called Mr. Cooper Didn't Do It, and it is a mystery book. It's an epistolary mystery, so told through emails and texts and things like that. It's kind of in the Rachel Riley universe. If anybody knows my book, What Happened to Rachel Riley, that's like my most popular middle grade book, and it's very much in that vein. A girl trying to solve a mystery of her favorite teacher, Mr. Cooper, has been busted with the stolen field trip money in his desk. And she does not think that he stole it. And she is going to go out there and figure out who really took this money and defend Mr. Cooper's name. And so that is coming out in January. And I am really excited about that book. It was the hardest book I have ever written. I basically had to rewrite it during the editing process.
Oh, man.
And I'm really, really excited about it. So
But you're
it's the
proud
next
with
12
how it came
months
together.
are. Whew, I am like more proud than any other book because
Nice.
to have a book like mystery, I love writing mysteries. I mean, in some ways, Each and
Yes.
Every Spark is a mystery
Of
too,
course.
right?
Yes.
Penny's trying to
Yes.
figure out the painting. I love mysteries. Um, but they can get very, very difficult and complex and layered. And so to be able to kind of dig through all that muck and find something that I think really works was quite rewarding. So I'm going to be exhausted the next 12 months, but it's all good. I
Good
love my job. So
exhaustion. Good exhaustion.
yes, yeah.
Wonderful. I'm so excited about it. Can
Thanks.
you recommend for us a favorite children's book? Any
I
author
can.
age?
I'm not going to say favorite because that would
Yes.
just kill me, but
Just
I'll give you a
one you
historical.
love.
If you like historical, I
Okay.
just read a historical middle grade over the summer. That was so not just like 6 months ago, but it was so good.
Yes.
Sorry. It's called The Blackbird Girls by Anne Blankman. Have you read this?
I know the author, but I don't know that book.
It is about the Chernobyl explosion in the 80s, the nuclear power plant explosion in Ukraine. So great timeliness if you're learning about like Ukraine and Russia and the Soviet Union,
Oh,
nuclear energy, right? Like there's a cool science aspect to it. Is really, really good. It also deals with anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. It's a friendship story. So yeah, The Blackbird Girls is very, very good.
excellent. All right, I'm going to look that up.
Yeah.
I do love historical fiction. And I was looking back over my episodes, and because that's probably my second favorite genre. Fantasy's my thing, and then
Mhm.
historical fiction. And I was looking back over episodes, and I was like, when's the last, have I ever had a historical fiction that was straight up, that's what the book is? Because I
Mhm.
had had some genre smash. But yes, the last one was my second episode,
Okay.
like 70 episodes ago.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
was so glad
Yeah,
to
I
have you on
think
today. Thank you.
thank you so much. It was really fun talking.
I hope that you enjoyed hearing about each and every spark. Did you know it helps authors tremendously if you rate and review their book? So make sure that when you love a book, you leave a rating and a review. And likewise, that also helps us podcasters. So if you enjoy a podcast, it really helps if you rate and review the podcast.